All right, thank you all for coming. Now, I know why you all chose this session. It's the only session on the agenda where we're discussing the topic of AI, of all of reInvent. So I appreciate you all recognizing the unique value prop here. Of course, that was a joke. I know that we are all, pretty much everyone here is discussing AI, and for good reason. We're going to dig into a little bit of why. I think that this is such a major topic of discussion. But before we start digging in, let me introduce myself. My name is Alex Drag. Also, let me just pause. It's like my name is compressed. You'll notice there were a few hiccups on the PowerPoint sendover, so apologies for some design funkiness throughout the presentation. Just try and ignore that. But anyways, my name is Alex Drag. I'm the head of product marketing here at Kong. Professionally, I've been in product marketing pretty much my entire career. I've been in the API space for the last several years. Really, really passionate about it. Love all things SaaS, dev tools. Been kind of all over the place in that larger environment. Outside of work, I live in Fort Collins, Colorado with my wife and brand new baby Amelia. She was born about 3 months ago, so it's been a very, very interesting 2 to 3 months for us, as well as my dog and my cat, and we really do love Colorado, but I'm very happy to be here in Vegas with you all. So with that, because I know that we have limited time, let's dig into the major topics of conversation today. So I'm going to start off a little controversial, and we're going to answer this question: is AI actually overrated? And then when we get to that, we get through that question, we discuss it. We're going to then discuss what that answer means for you all, and really for everyone here in this conference, here at reInvent. And at the end, I'm hoping we'll have time for some Q&A. But if there isn't time, our booth is somewhere over there. I believe I get lost in this massive room, but it's booth 143. So if you have any questions, we'll continue those conversations there. Okay, so let's get on to the topic. The question, is AI actually overrated? Well, instead of me just kind of putting my own opinions out there, let's consult some numbers. So we ran a study this year in 2024 called the API Impact Study AI Edition. And what we found is that amongst many things, 92% of organizations say AI is a priority. Okay, so we've answered part of this question. AI is not just marketing, it's not just all that vendor stuff. This really is a priority for organizations. And 83% said that AI has actually created opportunity for new products. And we found that by the end of the decade, there's an estimated $43 trillion of cumulative economic impact, okay? So, of course, that's not one company reaping that. Everyone's going to get a slice of that, right? But the point is, there's a ton of potential here. So looking at these numbers, I think the answer to, is AI actually overrated, is a pretty clear no, right? Clearly I think it's a really, really big deal. So what do we think? I'm actually going to state that yes, it is overrated, regardless of all the value, right, that you see here on the left. And why do I think that? And I'd also say it's overrated, but with a catch. So yes, there's someone on the stage talking about AI. You're here to talk about AI or learn about AI. Don't leave yet. It's still very important, right? It's only overrated because of a specific catch and caveat that we'll break down in a minute. And that caveat is basically, I think, really ever since ChatGPT came out and started blowing everyone's brains, doing people's homework, making recipes for people, I think we've started to approach, you'll see a bunch of LLMs here, but AI more generally really as the hero within your organization strategy, right? That LLMs and AI on their own will be the drivers between new product opportunities, the drivers between getting a slice of that 43 trillion. So we think about, and we oftentimes marketers market the AI as the hero that wears the cape. And I actually don't think that that's true. AI on its own, I don't think, can deliver this kind of value. And we don't have the numbers on the slide here, but I was going to cite, there was a study that Adapt ran. I think they interviewed or surveyed something like 181 CIOs over in Australia. And what they found was that only 9% said that they were somewhat ready to harness the impact, the value of AI. And it was something like 30% said they were fully unprepared to harness the value of AI. So look, those numbers don't match up with the story of look, just go get AI, go get an LLM, and all your problems are solved, all the value is driven for your organization, right? Because if the AI could do that on its own, you wouldn't have 40% of the CIOs saying, hey, we're not ready for this at all, right? And why is that? So a part of that study that we ran, that API impact report, we found that there were really these 3 or 4 challenges that kept coming up. The first was data privacy, right? So you think about typically what are you doing, right, with these LLMs, at least from the client perspective, or the consumer perspective, someone's trying to get access to data, right, or some set of functionality if you're exposing it, for example, publicly as a part of some AI-driven product. And of course, you have to make sure that you're exposing the right data to the right people, right? Never the right data to the wrong people, or the wrong data to the wrong people, or the right people. You're going to make sure that data privacy rules, regulations, that you're compliant with them. And this is a real challenge in the way of driving this kind of value on the left via AI. And then the second challenge that we found was security and governance, really related to the first, right? The way you get to this sort of data privacy promised land is you have proper security and governance implemented in your organization. How do you do that? Well, here comes challenge 3, was a lack of a centralized management tool, and we're going to get into 4 in just a minute. Right, so these top three challenges that are really in the way of AI driving this kind of value for organizations. So because it can't solve it on its own, it cannot be the hero all by itself, right? Now, before you say, look, maybe that's some organization saying that, fine, but we have rules, guidelines in place, I'd say I'd expect that, because we found that 80% of organizations also had rules and guidelines in place around AI usage. Right? Even the organizations that had these rules around who could access data, who could access AI, 60% of them said they've actually find ways around these AI restrictions. And when we speak to organizations that are trying to implement AI at scale in their enterprise, whether that's for driving internal efficiency or creating new products, et cetera, we keep hearing this, that they either introduce it and then there's all these access control problems that present themselves, or they're honestly too nervous to introduce this or roll this out in an at-scale manner because they're worried about this becoming a problem down the road for them, right? So once again, AI not the hero, right? Because it can't solve for these things on its own, at least not yet. So that begs the question, okay, who is? And if I look at these challenges, what I see is like, look, I mean, what we really need is some level of abstraction, right? You have the LLM, you have your AI service. We need some level of abstraction that can sit on top that can ensure secure access, right? You can deliver AI services to your clients, to your consumers in a secure, governable, consistent manner. And to me, that sounds like a job for the API. Right? This is what we've been doing for all sorts of non-AI things, right? You have an API that essentially acts as a abstraction layer, acts as a bundle of functionality and data that you can expose. It's not the actual data source itself, right? But it sits not totally on top, but somewhat on top of that data source. And it enables clients, consumers to securely access data, functionality in a secure, consistent manner, right? So, is the API the hero? Maybe, that makes sense, right? It does all these, it seems to solve for some of these questions or some of these challenges that we found in the report. But if you go back to this slide and you look at number 4, right? It's not a mystery. I think we've said it a bunch here at Kong. There are other folks here saying it. It's not a mystery to anybody that there really is no AI without APIs. I think we know that. It is the abstraction layer that must be introduced on top of these LLMs and AI services, but they can't do it on their own. The API is just a piece of technology, right? So it's my assertion that it actually isn't the hero of the organization, and the hero of the organization's AI strategy is really you all. And it's everyone who's here at reInvent, right? Because we know that it takes not just technology, but people and process to do this right. Just like AI, the API is not able to solve for these challenges on its own, and that's why this standardized API layer is actually the 4th largest challenge that we found when it comes to organizations rolling out large-scale AI projects. So, once again, we feel that you all are the AI and API heroes of the organization, but not so fast. You can't just do it. You can't just have an API and then have people and boom, your problems are solved, because villains abound, right? And you are going to recognize that I'm a huge fan of Batman, and I've had this hero metaphor going, so I'm going to continue rolling with Batman from here. There are villains that abound in the way, that are sort of in the way of all of us here being able to be the true heroes of our organization and drive AI success in our companies. And you see the Joker, this is old school Batman, the Joker, is it secure and compliant, right? Yes, the API is an abstraction layer, but we all know we have to secure the API as well, right? Is data exposure, AI exposure compliant with rules, regulations, et cetera, et cetera? Is it scalable? This is a major problem that we've seen when speaking with organizations as they unroll these AI projects. and then boom, things break because there's just so much demand and they have a really, really hard time controlling that. And then here the last one, and last but certainly not least, is it cost effective, right? These systems, these tools are not cheap to implement. And if you don't have proper ways to control traffic, see traffic, plan for traffic, budgets absolutely balloon, and you get to this point where yes, maybe you're driving some level of revenue or some level of efficiency with AI, but the costs associated with it completely outweigh any of the benefits that it might promise, right? So like any good hero, like Batman, what does Batman use to help vanquish the villains? The Batmobile, right? Yes, the Batmobile on its own is no good, right? You got to have someone to drive it. You got to have someone to operate it. You have to have someone to go fight the villains, and that's us, right? That's us in this room, that's you all, the hero. But the Batmobile, it's a trusty set of tools, right? It could be a trusty set of processes to attack these problems, to vanquish these villains, to really realize AI success. And this is where I pitch Kong, right? Of course, not because I have to, right? Yes, I work there, but it's because I really believe in what we're doing here, right? And I think that it's a very interesting approach to this problem. We say yes, the API is crucial. There is no AI without the API, but that API has to be treated like the strategic asset that it should be when it comes to your AI projects, right? The API has to be secure, right? You have to be able to control who can access it, when, how, has to be scalable so you can control cost structures, you can make sure your systems are resilient and reliable. And this is why we went and we built the API platform for AI. Right now it's an API platform for a lot of things, real-time data, microservices, platform engineering. We can talk about all those things at the booth, but for the sake of this conversation, we really have been leaning into this AI use case a lot really over the last year or two. And really what we feel is that you all can be this API hero and we give you that Batmobile, right, that allows you to control consumption, make sure things are reliable, make sure things are cost effective, et cetera, et cetera. And I have a lot of features on the board, it's how we implement it. Once again, the best way to have a conversation about all the specifics, to see it yourself if you'd like, is to go over to booth 143 over here and we can give you a look at our AI governance solution as part of our API platform. Now, a lot of people here are pitching tools. I want to prove that we're not just blowing smoke, right? Because I could show you that slide and it could not relate to anything. But the reality is there's real success out there in the real world. We have customers, we have users that really are embarking on these heroic API missions, right? Making AI work for their organizations, and one of those is Ryder. And for the sake of time, because we have like 7 minutes left, I want to leave at least 5 for questions. Ryder is this really cool company that they, amongst a lot of things, they built this product called the AI Studio, right? And their goal was to bring AI Studio to market. And in a nutshell, once again, you can go read the story on our website, but in a nutshell, they see the AI Studio as giving enterprises the ability to quickly and easily build GenAI applications and workflows, right? Now, when they brought this offering to market, they wanted to make sure that it was brought to market in a public-facing manner. And they wanted to have what they called, I believe in the story, was a gate API. They wanted to make their services available via an API. But to do that, and they expected a bunch of traffic, so it's a really cool solution, really cool tool. You can see that some of the world's largest organizations they trust Ryder and use Ryder. So they knew, okay, when we bring this to market, well, this has to be secure, right? Because now we're opening up the floodgates to a bunch of folks. Has to be scalable. And this third bit I think is really important, has to be flexible for multiple kinds of communication paradigms and patterns. Right, so yes, the normal requests, but also event-based communication, because especially when it comes to certain chat interfaces, oftentimes event-based asynchronous communication patterns are leveraged. So they searched the solution for an API platform, API management solution to make this happen. They found Kong in the results, and you can read about more details or read about more details online, or ask us over at booth 143. They found Kong Connect, and they implemented Kong, and they brought AI Studio to market successfully. So once again, I like to plug the customer because I think it really does bring the story that we showed in the slide prior to life, right? These things are really, really happening in the real world and actually driving real world value for organizations that want to fully harness AI, right? They don't want to be a part of the 30% of organizations that feel like they're fully unprepared, right? So, looks like we're right on time right on time for taking questions, but I want to quickly wrap up. If there were 4 things that I want everyone to walk away today with, it's one, I don't care what marketing tells you, right? AI is not the hero, at least not yet. It it cannot drive the value for your organization that's promised on its own, you are the hero. Right? You implementing things like standardized API layers, API platforms, proper process and technology. It's all about the people making this a reality. So yeah, there you are. API heroics will be a major component of making AI success a reality for your organization, really for every organization that is represented here at reInvent. And the third, there are still villains yet to be vanquished. And 4, we really do believe that it's the API platform that will be the critical tool. That will be the Batmobile to the Batman, right, on your AI and API heroics missions. So with that, we have 4.5 minutes left. I want to take any questions that anyone might have. If there's any more in-depth questions about the product or anything else, I do recommend checking out our booth so we can really continue the conversation there. But if anyone doesn't have any questions, comments, please feel free to bring them up now.